Hi everybody, I've been asked to do a video on how I make my stones. So the stones that you're looking at right here are a couple of the ones that I made for this video, and the others, the red one, the black one, the one at the top one on the left, those are ones that I've also previously made. So here we go. We're going to start with a 25, I buy a 25-pound box of Rapid Set Cementol from Home Depot. It's about $16. You're going to need some water, a bowl to mix in. You're going to need some measuring cups and some silicone molds, whatever you have, whatever you buy. You're going to need something to stir with. I use a spatula that I got at the Dollar Tree, and some rubber gloves. First, we're going to measure out 1 cup of the cement powder. I do the powder into the water, and I'll show you why. So you have 1 cup of powder, 1/4 cup of water, and you're going to put the water in the bowl, and then you're going to add the cement to the water a little at a time. Now, if you put the cement in first and then try to add the water, you're going to have a big clump. It's hard. It's not going to absorb properly, and it's just really going to be a lot of work. That was the big mistake that I made, and I learned right off the bat. So you put the water in the bottom of the bowl. Put a little of the cement powder in there. It's going to start to absorb, and then you start to mix it. Mix it well. You don't want any lumps. You don't want any big pieces. You don't want any dry spots. So you give it a good mix. After you get that mixed in well, you're going to add a little bit more of the powder. I usually do like a third, about a third at a time, just whatever you can handle. Just as long as you were putting the cement powder into the water, you shouldn't have any problem. If you can handle mixing larger quantities, then by all means, if you can do 2 cups of powder, and that would make it a half of a cup of water, because it's a 4-to-1 ratio. So for every full part of cement, you need 4 parts of the powder, which I use a cup, and 1 part of the water, which I use 1/4 of a cup. So I just added the rest of it into the bowl, and I'm stirring with my silicone spatula. It looks a little bit clumpy, and it'll be a little bit difficult, as you can see, like that, just for a few seconds. And then it's going to loosen up really, really nicely. And if it doesn't, and it's really, really dry, which it shouldn't be, but if it is, and you need to add some water, please only add, like, seriously, a drop at a time, because I don't know, it's just this phenomenal thing that just happens. It doesn't need a lot of water to mix. So here we are, we're mixing it up really well, making sure we have no lumps. And then I'm going to get my molds out. Make sure your molds are clean. If you have any dried up powder or anything in the mold, that's going to put a divot in with your new cement. As I'm pouring it out, you can see there's bubbles. We're going to take those bubbles out because you don't want those bubbles. If you leave those bubbles in there, it can do a bunch of things. First of all, if they're down the bottom, you're going to have divots. If they're on the sides, you're going to have divots. So what you want to do is you want to pop them like you would do like a cake. If you're making a cake, you pop it. And then bang around the sides so that the bubbles will migrate up. They'll float up and pop. So you'll see the bubbles there. Eventually they're going to all pop. Now, bubbles are going to continue to come up. You'll see those coming up too. And that's good. We want them to come up. So I'm going to add the rest of the cement now, and go through the same steps. Put the cement in the mold. Be careful when you're putting it in. You don't want the cement to go over the lip of the mold, because then as it hardens, your mold gets stuck in the cement, and again, trust me, it's really hard to get out. So be cautious about that. Use your spatula to, if you don't have a silicone spatula, you can use like a, what do you call those things? Popsicle stick, excuse me. or, you know, anything that you don't mind getting something on. So tap your mold until you see all your bubbles disappear. I'm going to add a little bit more here, and I'm trying to remember. Yeah, that's going to be okay. So once you get that settled in, tap, 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 make sure it looks good, and then just put it off to the side. Do you see that last bubble pop up on the end there? Yeah. Okay, so now that's off to the side. We're going to do our next one. And I don't have that much cement left here, so it wouldn't be enough to put in that little oval mold. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add to that. I'm going to use the same ratios as I did the first time. So I have a cup of powder. I'm going to get another quarter cup of water. A cup of powder, a quarter cup of water. Putting the water in, mixing it up with the cement, the leftover. And then I'm going to just go ahead and start adding the powder like I did last time. It's going to all blend in together. It's fine. If this cement, your first batch of cement is starting to get like hard, then you won't want to add it if you didn't have a chance to do it right away, because you'll just have a mess. So just ditch the other stuff. But for a couple of minutes, it'll be fine. So I added a quarter of a cup of water, and I'm adding in my powder. And you're going to see in this time here, I kind of just slip and I end up adding it all, which is okay. Stir it. See, it's thick. It doesn't look like it's going to mesh together. But within a couple of seconds, the water, see it? And I didn't add any water, and it just loosens right up beautifully. Again, you're going to stir, mix. If you find any lumps or bumps, mash it out. And you just keep doing that until you're ready to pour. It's really simple. This is not hard at all. It can be a little messy, so I put plastic on my table just because I can pick it all up and take it outside and just, dump it out or throw the plastic away, whatever. I'm checking to make sure I don't have any powder or anything in my mold. And you're going to start pouring. Pour a little bit in. You'll see a few little lumps going in there. That's fine. That's the pre-mixed cement that was in there from the first time. It didn't all melt up, but there's not going to be any problems with that. As long as it's not dry or really hard, you should be all set. So tapping out the bubbles that are down the bottom. I tend to be a little overboard with the tapping, but to me, it's worth it. I'd rather over tap than, go through all this and then find out later on that I have a bunch of holes in the top of my stones. Now here, I added a little bit too much cement, so I'm going in with a popsicle stick, and I pulled out just a little bit, put it back in my bowl. Because as I was saying before, you don't want it to go over the lip of your stone. Because if you do, and it dries, it hardens, it's really, really difficult to get that mold off. So now I have enough left to do my little oval stone, but I'm going to change my mind and I'm going to do another one of the round ones. I have several of these round ones. These are my favorite size. If you remember the front of the video, the red one and the black one that was there, that's this size, and this is my favorite. I think I'm not going to tell you the measurements because I'm not really sure, but I think it's 2 inches across or 3 inches across. Anyway, it fits in the palm of your hand. It's just a really nice size. So you see I've got a lot of bubbles here coming up now. Banging it down. Again, I might be going a little overboard, but I'd rather do that than be sorry. I'm going to finish filling this up. being careful not to go over. Now, as far as setting them up goes, when it comes to letting them set for how long you're going to want to let them set, once I get done pouring them, I'll usually put them somewhere. You want to put them somewhere where they're level and flat, not something that's going to tip and give them all kinds of weird shapes. You want to make sure they're flat on whatever they're sitting on and they're level. I will put mine aside, and I usually go back to them within, like, say, an hour. Within an hour, I can go back and pop them out. This here is a laser cut silicone mold that I bought from, I think it was Little Windows. And this laser cut will produce a really, really smooth finish. And when I say smooth, I mean like the other molds are going to be smooth too. They're not going to be rough. They're going to be smooth. But this is like glass, because this mold is made for resin. But I don't have a good relationship with resin. Resin and I we're not friends. So instead of letting my expensive, I think it was like $28 or $30 for this mold, just sit there, I figured I'm going to use it for cement. And so far, so good. I mean, it hasn't ruined anything. And these make the cutest little stones. The one on the left, I absolutely love. I'll show you one later on in the video. So you can see the one little tiny one on the right there, I over poured, and it's bubbled over. I could leave it, but it would be sort of rounded on the bottom. When you flipped it over, it would be kind of wobbly. When I make these little stones like that, the ones on the right, I will make like little flowers. I will do like little flowers. I'll write love or whatever. I'll do some cute little things on them. And then just drop them. Those are the ones that I'll just drop like on the path or, down by the park or whatever for people to find. So I over poured it, and rather than trying to just scoop it out, it's much easier in this case, excuse me, for me to just move that, swipe it and move it over. That cement will come off later. It won't be a problem once it's dry. If it bothers you, take a wet paper towel and just swipe it up. Now the first one we poured, you can see already, is almost, getting set up. It's not watery anymore. So here I'm showing you how I clean up my bowls. If you have a whole bunch of bowls and you don't care about throwing them away, throw it away. That's fine. I don't have a lot of bowls. Most of the time, I will use them 2 or 3 times just by doing what I'm doing. I add water to it and I clean it, get all the dried cement all in one place. And what I'll do is I'll take it outside and dump it out by the fence or down by the side of the driveway, somewhere where a little extra cement is not unwelcomed. It'll fill in a crack or two here or there. So the water will evaporate and the cement will stay and harden. So don't just dump it somewhere where you're going to be walking around barefoot, because you'll be sorry. But put it up against a fence or along the driveway. That would be fine. And then just wipe off your little silicone spatula. I got that at the dollar store. I get most of my stuff at the dollar store, like my buckets, my measuring cups, that green bucket, the spoons. Those all come from the Dollar Tree. And I keep it all together like that. And here are our stones set up. It's about an hour later. And I'm going to pop them out. So I'm sticking my finger in there and I'm really pulling on the edge of the silicone. Silicone is tough. You're not going to rip it. It's not going to break. And it probably wouldn't even melt, because I think it goes up to like 500 degrees or something. I've pulled it away from the edge of the stone. And I'm actually making it look a lot harder than it really is. And you just pop it out. The stones are hard and they're not going to break. See, I just flipped it. And it's fine. There's nothing. It's dark because there's still a lot of water in there. It does have to evaporate and finish drying out, but those are solid, solid, solid. So you're going to put that aside and do the next one. Same thing. Pull the silicone away from the stone. I think I'm a little more delicate in handling this one, and I don't flip it, if I remember correctly. Yay! And there you go, another nice stone. Now those are still down the bottom. You see the ridge that's there? They're still soft enough that if you were to take a piece of sandpaper and just go around and around and around, if there's any rough edges there, you should be able to get that off. I do that all the time. The other thing is if you don't pour enough, well, let me point over here. This one here is kind of stuck underneath. The edge of the yellow actually got stuck underneath the cement. So I got one of my tools, and I'm going to find a little spot that I can get in, and then I'm going to just go around with the tool like that. And that gets it right out. And the same thing, you just pop it out. So what I was going to say was about the bottom there. If you underpour and you have a big well, you can either leave it, you smooth that down. You can leave it. If you have resin and you want to fill in the hole with resin, go right ahead. But that blemish that you saw on the bottom of the stone there, that was a bubble that I missed. So if you don't tap well enough, you're going to get those bubbles. I don't care about that one because it's going to be on the bottom. But if that was down the top, I'd be upset. So these are the stones that we made. And all I'm showing you here, very off camera, is what I made using the same exact stone. So on that large oval, that's with the yellow silicone mold. This was the little smaller white one. I made these. These are all made with the same stone. And I'm going to undo the little domey ones. This mold was made to do resin paperweights. Put flowers or different little things in there with the resin. Like I said, I don't do the resin. I use them for cement. These two are stones that I painted up from that domed mold. And they're really cute. They're really, really cute. They're just the perfect little size to put on your desk or whatever. People love them. Now the last two that I had poured, those little tiny ones with the really dredges of my bowl, they're the ones that I'll take. And like I said, I'll just paint them up and put them by the park, by the benches, wherever. So that's how I make my stones. That's what I make with them. Hope you like that.